Good evening, everyone. And we are reconvening the meeting from December the 22nd, which was continued from December the 15th. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Rivera,
Here.
Washington,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Nixon.
Here. They're all accounted for. At the last meeting we had, or I should say at the meeting of the 22nd, there were some questions and concerns about if we were to sell the wastewater treatment system, what would we do with the proceeds? We have contracted with Pennsylvania Economy League to help advise us. This is what they do day in and day out. And I've asked them to be here this evening to give us a broad overview, a high-level overview of some suggestions and ideas that they would explore as they develop a better understanding of our finances. I don't know, Ms. Klaber, are you the one that's going to speak?
Yes, I'll kick it off. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Leanne Kleberger. I'm the CEO of the Pennsylvania Economy League. I have with me two members of our project team who I'll ask to chime in here as well. I have Jerry Cross, he's our Senior Research Fellow from PEL, and Steve Goldfield from Municipal Advisor Solutions. We recently contracted with the City of York to provide consultation on the use of proceeds from the potential wastewater sale to pay down sewer debt, general obligation, parking, pension, and post-employment benefit debt, and to work with the city's administration, council, and community to engage the public on the use of proceeds if the sale is approved. Additionally, the PEL team will conduct a historical review and financial projections from 2015 through 2025. PEL has worked with other third-class cities and other municipalities in the state on similar projects. Our team's approach is based on a philosophy of using sale proceeds to assist the city for the long-term benefit of residents by reducing long-term expenses. The Economy League is an independent, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that provides technical consulting services to local government with the goal and commitment of helping build strong, stable communities. In 2015, PEL conducted an early intervention plan study and published a report for the City of York. Jerry Cross, our Senior Research Fellow, actually directed that study in 2015. And Jerry, I'll turn it over to you to get us started on a brief overview of the findings from the EIP.
Thanks, Leanne. The report has some relevance to the discussion today on the 2021 budget and also on the work that we would be doing to help the city as far as proceeds. But the original report, since 2015, the city has made steps, undertaken numerous steps that were in the report to reclaim its financial footing, at least over the last 5 years. On the revenue side, they were increases in real estate property taxes, refuse fees, parking fees, and the implementation of an Act 205 pension tax, EIT tax, that was in the report. Additionally, in the report, the city has reduced expenses by modifying health benefits, staff reductions, and they had negotiated labor contract changes. Nonetheless, however, the 2015 report showed that there were significant budget problems underlying this city. They're still projected to reoccur, and we had it happening in 2019, I believe. And they would continue to increase because legacy costs are escalating. Tax revenues aren't increasing at the same rate. And those legacy costs include debt and pension obligations. Drawbacks to revenue include a high poverty rate among the city's residents, limiting their ability to pay taxes. There are state limitations on the amount of taxes you can levy and on the rates. And there, of course, like every third-class city, there's a large amount of tax-exempt property in the city. There are other recommendations in that report that included looking into options. The one that's relevant today is the monetization of assets. That was recommended in a process step to review the assets. and to provide the assets, to provide money that's not linked to taxes, to provide a source of funds for the city to use to offset and mitigate some of those legacy costs and debt costs that you have to pay every year. Also, the report, as part of the report, the city asked us to review the status of Act 47 as a tool for the city, as a vehicle for the city financially. The report looked at that, and I reviewed how effective the Act 47 language was. The report is still current. It hasn't changed, and it's still useful and accurate. I would advise you to review the parts of the report about Act 47. But the report noted that the tools that the city could get from an Act 47 filing were mostly in increasing taxes. For example, the earned income tax, which is presently capped at 0.5% for the non-pension related tax. If you bring the report's conclusions into today's discussion of the 2021 budget, and I'll also base this on our experience as Act 47 coordinators. We have been involved with Act 47 work since the act was initiated in the 1980s. It's our experience that the timing of the Act 47 process, what that requires, it will not bring in revenue soon enough to balance your 2021 budget. It will give you revenue tools, but the receipt of the money from those tools is delayed because of the process involved behind it. And you won't get revenue soon enough. The process takes time, and revenue collection will be delayed for a quarter or so after any recovery plan is approved. The city appropriately should expect approximately a quarter of revenue and perhaps no more than half of the revenue of the increased tax 47, tax revenue from Act 47. In 2022, you would have a whole year of tax revenue, but for 2021, you simply don't have enough time to collect the amount of money that would be available under a full Act 47. And also, as part of the discussion this year, the report highlighted the problem of increasing revenue. It's temporary. The increased tax revenue is limited to when you're in Act 47. And Act 47 has a time limit of 5 years before the first evaluation. And it's not part of a permanent fix to the city's problems and the expected continuing deficits. And perhaps most importantly, Act 47 doesn't replace the long-term structural changes that need to occur. The Act's a bridge to those changes. It's a process. You know, you get a recovery plan, you get a coordinator, you get state aid. But you need to consider serious changes to get out of Act 47 because there is a time limit in Act 47. Those towns that have been successful have changed their form of government through home rule to keep increased taxes permanently. Again, they're increasing taxes on a permanent basis. Or if they've made changes to service levels, they've got out of some businesses, they've stopped doing certain service levels. And they may also have sold large municipal assets to get out of Act 47. So they do this to avoid the permanent and ever increasing taxes on residents that are a result of having to pay for retirements, pay for debt, pay for those things that cities find themselves in paying for after being in operation for so long. And then the report, I think the report is as accurate today as it was then as far as those conclusions.
Jerry, would you like me to pick up now?
Yes, please, to go on to the proceeds use, we have Steve Goldfield and I will talk about the use of the proceeds, but I wanted to lay the backdrop on the Act 47 and the 2015 Early Intervention Plan report. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thank you. I want to reintroduce myself. My name is Steve Goldfield. I've worked with Pell in a number of third-class cities. I have been involved with asset sales throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, city of Scranton, Johnstown, Harrisburg. Notably in Harrisburg, we recommended against selling water and sewer. And my role is as 31 years in municipal finance, I know a lot about bonds and debt. And so I've also been involved in a lot of pension and other actuarial liabilities that municipalities had. So in Scranton, we looked at the debt and the pension, and we analyzed which debt should be paid down ahead of putting money into the pensions. Here, we're going to have a good 3 to 6 months if the city decides to authorize the sale of the sewer assets to conduct workshops, informational sessions, get council's input, and community engagement. And we'll talk about how that might look at a later meeting. But it's very common to wait until an asset purchase agreement is signed with a definitive amount before we start digging into allocation of proceeds and priorities and how to optimize really this money. There's no doubt that the first thing that's going to be done is if we proceed, the sewer debt's going to be paid off. So we've already done an analysis. Not all of the sewer debt is subject to refinancing right away. So we have to do something like putting an escrow together and investing the proceeds. But we've already done an analysis of how the sewer debt could be taken out. And that would have to happen in order to sell the assets. We then will look at the general obligation debt of the city. And again, some of these are not currently callable. We have what are called capital appreciation bonds, which were issued in 1995 and 1998, and your 2017s are not callable. So we're going to go through an analysis and we're going to present it to council to show on a maturity by maturity, issue by issue basis, what's the most efficient way to apply money, pros and cons to taking all the geo debt out or taking most of it out. And that'll ultimately be a policy decision for the city council and the administration to make. The pensions are valued every 2 years, and your next valuation is going to be as of 1/1/2021. So it wouldn't have made sense to spend a lot of professional time and effort figuring out what the best way to apply proceeds were using the 1/1/2019 valuation, because we know it's going to change. The things that we're going to talk to council about if we move forward, and again, I think these will be workshops, there'll be informational sessions, however, council wants to go forward, would be how do we reduce the MMO by investing some of these proceeds as much as possible without at the same time undermining the flow of revenues from the Distressed Municipal Pension Recovery Act, the Act 205 monies, right? There's an interplay, and it's very complicated, and it's a combination of a financial advisor and an actuary putting models together where we figure out, we can't pay 100% of the pension off or we'll lose all of the Act 205 revenue. So where's the sweet spot? And we're going to go back and forth with your actuaries once they do the 1/1/2021 evaluation. And we're going to work through that and make presentations to council showing you kind of the pros and cons of paying down more or not paying down more. We're also going to want to talk to you about reducing the investment return assumption in your pension. That is now at 8%, which across the Commonwealth and across the country was a number that was very, very common for many, many years until the great meltdown in 2008 and 9, and then the Great Recession. Most municipalities are reducing their investment return assumption, and it makes a huge difference in volatility. We're going to probably need to have a whole workshop on that. How much do you want to invest of this to bring down that investment return assumption? Simply put, if you're at 8% and the market moves your pension up 6%, you're going to have to increase your budget for your MMO the next year because you came under what the assumption was. But if we reduce you to 6% and the market returns 6%, then you won't have to increase your budget. So this is a hedge against, down markets, so that the city doesn't have to, if there's 1 or 2 bad years, really increase the amount it needs to budget from the general fund and have to raise taxes to do it. Finally, we're gonna have a whole conversation about something that most people don't talk about. There's only 2 cities that I've worked with that have actually funded There are other post-employment benefits. This is your retirees' health care. It's much more dramatic than your pension, and you fund your pension, but people don't fund their OPEBs. Healthcare costs are very, very expensive for the city, and also can be volatile when prescription drug prices go up. We did this, I was part of a team that did this for the state of West Virginia. We put together an OPEB trust in the city of Harrisburg, and we've worked with the city of Scranton. It's a very effective tool for long-term budget planning, and we're going to want to talk to council about that as well. So once we get through all of that, and the city, decides how much it needs of the proceeds to pay down debt this year in order to, have a balanced budget, then we're going to know kind of what the universe looks like. It feels like we should be able to do an awful lot in the debt reduction, pension, and OPEB area. And there may be, a small amount left over. If there is, then we'll have another conversation about what other long-term uses might be beneficial for the city of York. But we're not going to know that for a couple months. And most of it is going to be analysis, presentation, workshops, and then policy decisions by city council before we kind of get to that place where we know whether there's any money left in addition to paying off debt. And that's that concludes what I have to say, but I'm sure that if it's appropriate and there are any questions, that the Pell team would be happy to respond either now or after the meeting.
Well, we certainly appreciate that overview. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, Leanne?
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to give some insight on the work ahead. And just to reiterate, as Steve suggested, the timing of this is in terms of using the time while the PUC is reviewing the potential sale, et cetera. That is time for that public engagement opportunity. And that is part of what PEL has been engaged to help with as well. And that's really working side by side with the city administration as well as council to conduct workshops, disseminate information, organize meetings with key stakeholders, businesses, and others in the York community to provide openness and clarity about using the funds for that long-term benefit of residents by reducing long-term expenses, as well as getting input directly from key stakeholders to address their concerns, answer any questions, and solicit their input on how they would like to see those funds used as an investment for York. Any final decision on those use of proceeds would be made by council and the administration. The public engagement process is really there to provide input and to help guide those decisions. I will pause there and thank you for the opportunity to speak with council tonight. I'll turn it back over to you all unless you have questions that we can help answer.
Well, thank you again. Council, are there any questions of the team? Very good. Hearing none. Thank you for being with us, and I'm sure we will see more of you as time moves on. So I'd like to move to at the last meeting, we had a number of questions, concerns, and suggestions from Councilwoman Washington. And I believe the budget team and the administration has worked pretty hard over the last day or so to try to come up with the answers. And I'd like us to go over those things now. I don't know if the mayor wants to take lead of that, or if business administration, or a combination of you all. But can we go through those questions or suggestions and give us the answers?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll take the lead on that. If Councilwoman Washington, I wanted to make sure that this would be a way forward with your suggestions, because we do have responses, and there were some very good and valid suggestions within the last set of questions and suggestions that you put forward. Is that something that you wanted to go through right now? We can respond.
Sorry for the delay. My phone's a little slow. I apologize. Yes, I know I did have some comments, and I had a statement that I would like to make as well. So I'm fine to have that openly.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yep, of course. All right, let me go back here. So, as you've heard earlier, there are some reasons why Act 40, some of the suggestions that Councilwoman Washington had put forward involved Act 47. And Act 47 does tend to be a mysterious thing where some people think the state gives us lots of money or wipes out our debt or things like that. That is not the case. And you heard earlier from PEL a little bit about why they did not include or support the option of Act 47 in their 2015 early intervention plan. These increases are temporary, while the tax increases are temporary while in Act 47. So we raise taxes for a while, but then we kind of get let down again at the end and have that loss of revenue. So it doesn't really support the long-term recovery of the city. The early intervention plan continues to point to a reduction of expenses, which the past administrations, I think going back at least the last two administrations, have certainly made efforts to try and cut staff and cut expenses where we can. Unfortunately, the cost of running the city does continue to go up, particularly in the healthcare is one that just seems to be uncontrolled right now. So the specific questions that were included in the last email here, have we looked at EIT or LST rate increases? EIT is your earned income tax. That's the 1.25% that is paid on everyone that either lives in the city or works in the city that is working, and that comes off your paychecks. And the LST is the $52 a year that you pay. Used to be called, I think, the privilege tax. Now it's the local services tax. And in our budget that we presented in mid-November, we did not contemplate earned income tax or LST increases because Act 47 was not in our recommendations in the early intervention plan. So the administration was at no time seriously while we reviewed Act 47, we were not seriously considering taking steps that would have required us to apply for Act 47, go through that determination process, et cetera, et cetera. So the sale of the wastewater treatment plant was the only long-term solution that received support over the last 10 months that we were seeking suggestions from folks both inside the government and outside the government. The sale of the wastewater treatment plant was really the only thing that received significant support and could do the long-term financial change and could create the long-term financial changes that we were really looking for. How much additional revenue would we generate by increasing the LST? We have found that by increasing the LST, we could, if we went into Act 47, we could increase it from $52 to $104, and that would provide just under $1.1 million in revenue. This one I might need some clarification on, but we tried to answer it as best as we could interpret it. In regards to our distressed pension EIT, so that's the extra 0.25% that is on your earned income tax. With our 2021 minimum municipal obligation, you'll hear a lot about that MMO, minimum municipal obligation increasing by $3 million compared to 2020 required contribution to the pension plan, could it be possible to have that full $3 million covered by increasing the EIT for residents and commuters? And I assumed there it meant distressed pension EIT. More specifically, with the rate increasing from 1.25 to 1.55, leaving the additional 0.3% costing $150 per resident earning $50,000 per year. I think what this is suggesting is something that we got in a little bit of trouble with the Auditor General, of using Act 205 money for items other than the additional unfunded obligations, the $84 million that we owe in unfunded payments. So it is our understanding, and this has been supported by Council and PEL, that the Act 205 money is only to be used for unfunded pension debt obligations above and beyond the annual minimum municipal obligation, except for a very small portion. I think it's maybe 7 or 8% that can be used in the MMO. So there's a possibility that maybe a few $100,000 could be used out of increasing the distressed pension EIT by doubling it or more. However, that action doesn't require an Act 47 designation, but it also doesn't address the significant gap in the 2021 York City budget, because that money is applied to unfunded pension debt that is outside of the debt that we have to pay down. So I hope that explains it. If not, if the team is wrong in the interpretation of the question and suggestion, please let us know. Then the question is, could we then increase the real estate taxes by 10%? That would generate for us 1.4 million in revenue. Well, unfortunately, and when we get to the summary, hopefully, Cliff, I'll be able to share my screen maybe, and it will show you the summary table of what the suggestions were in this email of what revenue might be able to be generated and what we believe could actually be generated. So we'll get to that in a minute, but we don't believe that these other suggestions would offset 38% of the tax increase and bring it down to only a 10% tax increase. Are there additional monies that we could receive from the mercantile and business privilege tax? The 2021 figure appears a bit low compared to the 2020 projection. That could possibly provide us with an additional 800,000 in that line item. Well, unfortunately, the projections from 2020 were done in 2019, and nobody knew about COVID-19 back at the time that these budget projections were created. So the mercantile and business privilege revenue was heavily impacted by COVID in 2020. This tax is based on the fourth quarter of the year and then the first, second, and third quarter. So for instance, for the 2021 budget, it would be the income generated by businesses during October, November, and December, this quarter that we're in now. And we already know that that's been a bad quarter because of COVID. The first quarter of next year, the second quarter of next year, and the third quarter of next year. So we are predicting that the first quarter of next year will also be bad. And unfortunately, we are not very optimistic on COVID at this time, believing that it would continue to impact our economy and our businesses probably through the third quarter. So we do believe that the 2021 projection is accurate, and there is not another $800,000 that we could add into the budget at that point. Then there was a question, as we know, this is a tough conversation to have, and it happened in the past. Could there be a possible 2-week furlough? It would save us approximately 4% in salaries, equating to $800,000. Unfortunately, those numbers are only if everybody was furloughed, but we cannot furlough the police and fire departments. So the actual value of that 2-week furlough, meaning about 220 people would be off for 2 weeks unpaid leave. That value would be $414,000 and $303. I'm sorry, $414,303. And in regards to our pilot, could it be possible to increase the amount by $100,000? In fact, we have been honored with a very large increase in the pilot from WellSpan. Previously, they had given $450,000 annually in a pilot. They have increased their, I don't know if they're calling it a pilot, but they've increased their partnership with us to support the firefighters, the police department, and the Bureau of Health. They have increased that to $1 million. So yes, Councilwoman Washington, not only can we increase that revenue line by $100,000, but we can increase that revenue line by $550,000 thanks to WellSpan. So that is very exciting news for us. And finally, do you think that there would be a possibility to discuss with the FOP and IAFF, that's the police union and the firefighters union, regarding them giving up their cost of living allowance or their annual increases in their pensions? There is a possibility of doing that. It has to be done during the negotiations. It will not be done voluntarily. I spoke with former presidents of the FOP and of the IAFF, and there is a possibility of something like this happening. In fact, the prior administration did negotiate with the FOP, with the police in 2017, with the firefighters. And they have gotten relief from the COLAs, but they also had to change their pension allocation from 50% of salary to 58%. So there is a cost. None of this comes without a cost. And so we do believe that either this administration, if we are here, or a future administration should continue reviewing those possible changes in the contracts with the firefighters and police. However, that suggestion would not have an impact on the 2021 budget. So finally, I'm going to see here. Cliff, is there a way for me to share the screen?
There should be. If it's the PowerPoint from Aquina, I have that as well and can share it.
This is something that I've got right here. This actually came out. Can folks see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this was a summary that was submitted to us by Councilwoman Washington with the hopes that this could offset approximately 38% of the 48% property tax cut. Unfortunately, the summary shows that the LST rate increase could not be tripled if we went into Act 47. It could only be doubled. And so that would garner $1,100,000. The distressed pension EIT rate increase would not affect the general fund budget. The mercantile tax and budget adjustment could not be made because the expectations are still that there will be COVID impacts. The furloughs would not be valued at $800,000. They would be valued at $414,000. The pilot budget adjustment, as you can see, you requested $100,000, but we are able to provide $550,000. I should say WellSpan is able to provide that. Then you would still be left with a 6.94 mil tax increase. So we would still be at, unfortunately, a 36.5% tax increase. So your efforts, if we were to follow these, which would include, I'm trying to think if this would, yes, which would require us, the first one, the LST rate increase would require us to go into Act 47. The other suggestions would not require us to go into Act 47. But the big one is the LST increase. And that would require going into Act 47, which requires, as I'm sure you know, Councilwoman Washington, but I will share it for others, that requires us to send in an application or create an application. Here you can see in the second paragraph down there, requires applications and acceptance into the program, which could take approximately 3 months. Then it could take 2 to 3 weeks for a coordinator to be appointed. The coordinator has 120 days to develop the plan. Then there's a 30-day review of the plan. Now that's on the long side of it. If somebody comes in sprinting and and all the barriers come down, for instance, if you have a governor from York and directors within DCED from York, and they want to make this happen pretty quickly, it could happen within 3 months. However, even at that time, after that, the courts still have to approve any kind of tax increases beyond the normal taxes. And so we would expect that actually, I forgot to change that part. I'm sorry, that last line is incorrect. We could potentially garner that $1.1 million from that. The sentences in there were regarding a potential increase in EIT, which was not a regular EIT, which was not an option that you put forward, Councilwoman. But if we were to choose increasing the EIT, which is actually a more valuable choice, you can only do one or the other. You can either increase the LST or the EIT. The EIT is actually much more valuable to us and could garner us an additional $3.7 million instead of $1.2 million. But it still falls into that category of only lasting as long as Act 47 lasts. So it's some short-term revenue, and I'm not trying to scoff at it, but it does not address our long-term issues. And I said 3.7. That was wrong. 3.7 million. That's wrong too. It's however much they allow us to increase the EIT. And I believe that is it. The whole administration and PEL are here at your disposal for any questions. And again, the 550,000 is already in the amendment that we put forward the other night that was voted down. It is in an amendment either separately or included in a package that could be put forward, and we are prepared to provide you with that. Actually, I think it might have already been provided to council members in case you would like to act on that this evening.
All right, thank you. I hope that helps to satisfy some of your suggestions and questions, Ms. Washington. I know that at this point, I promised that you would be able to make a statement, and I think you have also a PowerPoint. So please proceed with that.
Thank you, Council President Nixon, and thank you, Mayor Helford. I just want to say good evening to everyone. First and foremost, I would like to offer my thanks and appreciation to my fellow colleagues, the administration, and most importantly, our community for providing me with the opportunity, for all of us with the opportunity to recess to have further comments and questions and concerns answered. Thank you to Mayor Helfrich and his administration for their hard work and great work, as well as your consideration of answering my questions. It is greatly appreciated, as I have said on several accounts. I would also like to bring to light that there is no ill will between myself and our city clerk, Ms. Diana Thompson Mitchell. She respects me in the position that I am, and I most certainly respect her in the position that she is in. I have been contacted by numerous constituents with many questions seeking clarity and transparency on the City of York's budget, their spending plan, and the Selva wastewater treatment plan. I would urge our constituents to contact my colleagues as well as myself and let us know any of your concerns that you continue to have with our meeting today. I just want to say thank you to PA Economy League for your presentation today and sharing with us some of the suggestions for the plans moving forward with the City of York. I'm sure our residents are grateful to have that presentation today. I just have a very, very short presentation I just want to share with a few of the questions that I had and provided to the administration, and well, some suggestions on alternative revenue streams that Mayor Helfrich did go through. Cliff, would you mind sharing the first? Thank you so much, and thank you to Cliff. He's the best. If you could go to the second slide, please, Cliff. On the screen, I had a few suggested proposed budget questions other than the ones that Mayor Helfrich did bring up. I had a few questions on if the proposed advanced monetization funds were used to pay the City of York, how would it pay for our operating expenses? I also had a question, how would the 2021 City of York budget balance effectively if the wastewater treatment cell was not approved by the PUC in 2022? I also wanted to know the reasoning behind us obtaining a bridge loan in 2022 versus 2021. I also did have some questioning in regards to our TRAN and giving a final explanation of the offset of the TRAN to justify taking wastewater treatment plan presumed advance payment. And also an explanation on the wastewater treatment plan advance being applied to long-term debt versus short-term operations, as well as documentation of this recommendation from PEL and MAS. And I also asked for a complete itemization and spending plan of the wastewater treatment cell proceeds so that not just myself and council could have a full understanding, but so that our community as well can have a full understanding where these proceeds will go. Cliff, would you mind moving to slide 2? As Mayor Helfrich did bring up, he did share a few of the additional revenue streams that I was able to come up with. And thank you to him and his team for providing me with further suggestions on other things that we can look at going through those revenue streams. As you can see, I did present my colleagues as well as the administration with these alternatives to gain additional revenue streams in the amount of $8.1 million. Please note that these suggestions would decrease the possible property tax increase that was suggested of 48% down to 10%. Mayor Helfrich did walk through a few of my questions, so I'm not going to belabor everyone with the repetition of those questions because he did a great job with going through those questions. But as you can see, the first one had to deal with how are we looking at the EIT and LST and rate increases, to which I have a line item of $2 million. I also asked, and let Mayor Helfrich to elaborate on that, I asked in regards to our distressed pension EIT with our 2021 MMO increasing by $3 million compared to 2020, and that required contribution to that pension plan. What would that look like with the $3 million? And then if we go down to increase in real estate taxes, if we would only increase to 10%, I have that would generate what that would generate. But also if we were looking at to even go into a 2% tax increase, that would generate for us $280,000 and would bring down my total revenue stream, my total additional revenue down to $7.1 million. And I did ask were there any additional monies that we could receive for the mercantile business privilege tax. And I have explained that there for that amount, what that amount would look like. I also went into asking, yes, it is a tough question to even have a discussion about furloughs and layoffs for staff, but it is a question and conversation to have. I did ask, could we explore the possible 2-week furlough? And it would equate to about $800,000. Mayor Helfrich did correct that and give the full correction on how that would look for us moving forward. I did ask a question and increase to our pilot $100,000. I'm grateful to hear that WellSpan has committed, made that generous commitment to us. I'm very grateful for that commitment. And so that increases that tremendously. I would say that I've tried my best to distinguish the 2021 budget from the wastewater treatment plant sale. It is very hard with a possible $20+ million to be given to us up front, although I do understand where everyone is coming from. It's easier to take the upfront payment to fill the budget gap, which I totally understand. But my work and the 8.1 million that I was able to come up with, that doesn't fill the gap. But with the help of the administration and my colleagues, I'm sure that we can come up with the difference. Since we are on the subject of the wastewater treatment plant, I would like to share that if rates are going to be flat for those 3 years with the potential buyer, it is inevitable that within 3 years, our rates will at least triple by $100 or more per month, because the purchasing company will most likely need to recoup their money spent to purchase our asset. I would also like to be made aware of the rate projections provided by the bidders over the next 5 to 10 years. Information has been given to me over the past few days, and it has shown me that the administration does not have a clear plan for spending these proceeds. My question is, are we going to pay down our debt? It's like selling homes and using the proceeds to buy a new car instead of paying off credit cards or other debts that we owe. Gratefully, I did receive the responses from Mayor Helfrich and his administration on my presented alternative streams of revenue within our budget and the possibility of considering them and their suggestions, but I only received them within a 2-hour notice. I do stand firm this evening that I will need more time to make a sensible vote and thoroughly and review the information provided to me by the administration, because I do have a few questions, but I do want to review some numbers and things of that sort. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. I didn't know whether you were going to come forward with any amendments. Do you have any?
No, sir, at this time I do not. Like I shared, there was some information presented tonight that I have a few more questions.
Very well.
And I wanted to work through the numbers a little bit. I don't want to make sure that I'm right before I make a conscious decision and vote tonight.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to give you that opportunity. Are there any amendments from the floor? Hearing none, I would like to move forward with an amendment. And it is bill number 20.
Council President, if I could hop in just for 1 second.
Yes.
I think Councilwoman Washington was pretty clear there that she's not going to be ready to vote tonight. With that being the case, I don't know if it makes more sense to maybe use this time as a work session with all of council and the administration here to try to figure some of this stuff out. We do obviously have to have a budget by the 31st. If we don't have a budget by the 31st, that is a government shutdown. And I mean, what that means is, no city employees will be paid. There will be no services other than what's exempt, which is police and fire. So, I mean, I think maybe if we know Ms. Washington has more questions and is going to need some more answers, maybe we can use this as a work session instead of bringing up something we know that she's not ready to vote on.
Well, and that's fine. But I think that, I'm not opposed to a work session, but I believe that Ms. Washington also wants to have more time to study the responses from Mayor Helfrich and review those numbers. And that probably will take time for her to do that on her own. Or are you willing to go over these things this evening, Ms. Washington?
You were correct, Council President Nixon, that I would need time to review it. I'm not sure if we can recess to tomorrow or the 31st. I would like time to thoroughly review it and look through everything. Like I said, I received the information. The email did come through at 4 o'clock, but I have been busy and I didn't get a chance to open it up and review it and look through things until about 4:30.
Very good. So I think that probably the wise thing to do at this point would be to recess until tomorrow. It is my intent that council will work toward a compromise or an understanding to pass a budget by midnight on the 31st. And we will work and meet as much and as often as necessary until we arrive at a budget and can pass a budget that is balanced. I do not want to see us shut down the city government. We all value all of the employees in the city, and to put some 220 or 250 people out of work for 2 weeks, if avoidable, certainly makes sense to me, especially when we've got the possibility of $235 million sitting on the table. I don't want to walk away from that either. So if council is in agreement, Madam Vice President, are we okay with meeting tomorrow? I would like to give you enough time, Ms. Washington. Can we say 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon?
Will that be enough time for Councilwoman Washington?
That is fine. Thank you.
Very good. Are you okay with that, Mr. Rivera?
Yes, I am.
All right. Mayor, are you available?
Yes, sir.
Very good. We will recess this meeting once again until 1 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you and good evening. Good afternoon. I am reconvening the meeting which originally began on December the 15th. This is the third time that we've met since then. Yesterday's meeting, we had a number of questions answered for Councilwoman Washington, and she wished to have additional time to examine those questions and be able to, I guess, speak to them today. So the floor is yours, Ms. Washington.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Council President Nixon. Thank you to the administration for answering my questions. I am ready to move forward if everyone else is with a vote. I do have a brief statement that I would like to read before my vote. Thank you.
Very well. Would you like to go ahead and do that now?
I would prefer to do it prior to my vote. Thank you.
Very good. You have no amendments, is that correct?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Very good. There is an amendment that I wanted to put forward yesterday. And I don't know if Diana already has a copy of this or not, that she could read it into the record, but it's bill number 20, and it's introduced by me, and it's an ordinance appropriating sums to the budget, I believe. Do you have that, Diana?
I have the final ordinance, the final budget ordinance with the incorporation of the Act 136 and well span. So if someone from the budget team wishes to discuss that amendment, that's all I have. It's just what's incorporated in the budget.
Very good. We'll have an explanation.
Council President, is Councilman Rivera on the?
He was trying to call me as the meeting started. I had to keep declining the call. Would you like to recess for a few minutes for me to contact him?
Yeah, I didn't realize he wasn't on.
Somebody tried to call me with a number I didn't know and I didn't answer it. But I'll resend his Zoom link just in case he needs it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let us recess briefly until
Okay.
Councilman Rivera can join us.
Okay, I'll give him a call now. He didn't have the link. I'm getting ready to text it to him, so give me a couple of minutes here.
Don't tell him to check his email. I just had it resent from Zoom.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Everyone there?
Yep, he's on.
Thank you so much. Apologies.
Understood. No problem. We will reconvene the meeting now that Mr. Rivera has been able to join us. So if someone from the budget team would explain to the public this amendment that I'm bringing forward.
Mr. President, with no objections, I would offer an explanation.
Oh, that'd be good.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is very simple. We have, as expressed, I believe, at last night's meeting, the WellSpan organization has increased their contribution to the city's efforts by $550,000. That's more than 100% increase to previous contributions from WellSpan. And that has already been included in the amendment that I believe is being offered now. The second item, Vice President Walker had questioned whether or not there were appropriations specific to Article 136 and also a potential disparity study, which would allow us to create legislation specifically giving benefits to minority, women-owned, and veteran and disabled-owned businesses. And so we did go ahead and incorporate $300,000 for year 2021 to move forward on Article 136 and the disparity study. We are committed overall to $1 million based on the revenue of the wastewater treatment plant sale. However, we thought it was appropriate for the first year that $300,000 should be more than enough to cover our costs to get things going.
Very good. And otherwise, there is no difference between this amendment and the one presented last week.
Correct.
Very good. Are there any questions from council? Hearing none, would you please call the roll? Oh, I beg your pardon. Maybe we should ask if there's anyone from the public that wishes to comment prior to the consideration. Cliff, do you have anyone?
No.
Diana?
I do not.
Very good. Then please call the roll
And this is on the amendment.
on the amendment.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington.
Is this on the budget amendment?
This is just on the amendment to include the money for the pilot from WellSpan and for the money for the Article 136.
It is a yes.
Okay. Walker,
Yes.
Nixon.
Yes, and that's so ordered. Next, since we've decided to go ahead with a vote on the budget for 2021, is there any discussion, further discussion on that item? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the budget for 2021?
I believe Councilwoman Washington said she wanted to read
That's right.
a statement.
There's also a hand. I don't know if you wanted public comment or not, but there is a hand.
Ms. Washington, may we take the raised hand prior to your statement?
Yes, of course.
Very good. Cliff, please.
Anthony, you can go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I just wanted to say that before y'all vote, I know that this has been something that's been inevitable. And, you know, I'm not trying to pass judgment on anybody in the governing body here in the city, but I just wanted to say something. I didn't want to really ask a question. I just wanted to say something very short and brief. This has been a looming issue with the city for a long time, as Mayor Helfrich and I have spoke about in past town hall meetings. And I understand that at this point, we are clearly at no options. But I just wanted to say something,
please go ahead and say it.
Okay, I'm going to say it, sir. Just give me a second, okay?
Sir, could you give me your name again? Could you give me your name?
Yes, I am a tax-paying citizen of York City, and my name is Anthony Collier.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Yes, I just wanted to say that a lot of you have spent a long time on city councils. You've held seats here for a long time, and we've all known about this issue for a very long time. And one thing that I spoke about with my brother last night was there were a lot more options in the past that we have today. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you guys that I'm holding everybody responsible. I'm not going to blame you, Mayor Helfrich. I'm not going to blame you, Mr. Nixon. I'm not going to blame Mr. Ray. I'm not going to blame the current administration. But what I am going to say is that for the longest time since we've known in all the past terms of mayors, we've known that this has been an issue and we've had a lot more options than we have today. And my disappointment with everybody here is that I understand we have a tough decision to make and it's inevitable, but we had more options. And I feel like nobody had, even before they became the mayor, when they were sitting on the city council board, nobody came up and tried hard to make those options a realistic choice. You understand what I'm saying? So I know that we're in this position and I know that we have to do this, but I just wanted to let you guys know that there's blood on y'all hands today. Okay? And this is going to affect us for years to come. And I'm going to stop that rant right there. And I'm going to basically move on to say, there's $60 million extra that you did not expect. And I know that that pushes the amount of years that we're going to be able to survive off this money and extends it. But we need to know, and we need a guarantee, and we want to speak to you, Mr. Mayor, and I would love to speak to you on how you're going to allocate some of that money so we can bring business and bring some sort of economic self-sustainment so we don't have to sell assets going further when you're already long, after your terms as mayor. And I appreciate the things that you're doing. And I'm not going to lie, I have had preconceived notions about you, but I have rescinded those. You know what I'm saying? But I would like to sit down with you and the council members and find out how much of that extra money we can use to bring business to this city so we can be self-sustaining, we can get businesses paying taxes, and so we can try to birth a better economy in York City so we don't have to sell assets going forward. Because we know that this is not the fix-all. This is just a huge Band-Aid that's going to last for a long time, but it's not going to be forever. And we need to figure out how we can make York City a place that other people can come to and want to patronize. So I want that promise from you, Mr. Mayor, and your administration. I have no qualms with you. I know that we're in this position and you were inherited this problem. This is not your fault entirely. This is all of our fault from past to present. But we need to know that the extra money that we got now today, we need to know that we are going to sit down and we're going to figure out a way to bring that back into the city, and not these, handout type programs. No, we need profitable businesses that employ citizens of this city and bring business, very attractive businesses. And we need to spread that out, not just downtown, Mr. Mayor. We need to spread that out within the blocks out west. We need to bring that into the out south. We need to bring business to this city so we don't have to sell further assets and have to be taken over by the state. And I hope I'm not coming off as angry, or I'm not mad. I'm very passionate, and I really, really, really want to sit down. And we're putting people together. We're gonna have our own meetings so we can present this to you the right way, sir. Because we're not here to argue. We know we're in this position. Mr. Nixon, I know you want to cut me off. Just give me 1 second. I'm talking to the mayor right now. Okay?
Well, this is a council meeting.
And I understand that, but I'm a citizen that pays taxes. Stop trying to cut me off.
I'm very glad that you are.
People of this city. No.
You are completely out of order. If you would like to make a comment about the budget, please do so. Otherwise,
I am making a comment about the budget, sir. I'm making a comment about the budget because there is $60 million extra, and I want to make sure that our people have the right to figure out how we can use some of that money to birth some sort of booming economy in this city, because we need it, sir. We don't want to stay.
If you had been listening to the meeting yesterday, You would have heard Pell explain exactly how we were going to try to disperse that money so that we would be able to have a sustaining economy and a sustaining city over the course of at least a decade, if not more.
Okay, but in that plan that you had, did that include any of us citizens being involved in those discussions? Okay,
Yes,
good.
apparently
All
you
right.
were not listening closely.
Okay, I'll see you there then. I'll see you there because we have our own plans and we are congregating together. There's a lot of us that are congregating together. And listen, sir, I want to work with you. Okay, I apologize if there was any type of aggression here. I don't have no qualms with you. Okay, but this is a very passionate subject, and I do not want a state takeover. And I'm not gonna harp on that. What I'm saying is, I want to see York City win, and I want this extra money to birth the economy for this city. That's all I'm saying. And I want that promise from you, Mr. Mayor. I want that promise, and I know you're gonna work hard. I know you mean well, Mike. I know you mean well. Okay, so we're gonna work on that, sir.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Collier, just to follow up, I've said it in previous meetings, but that was one of our main concerns as council members, those who, when we were looking at options, is to have a plan from administration to let us know how we would responsibly deal with any proceeds, if there were any proceeds from a possible wastewater treatment plant sale. So if you need to hear a commitment from me, you have that commitment. I have 3 more years on council.
I appreciate that, and we look forward to meeting with any of the members of City Council, including the mayor. If once we come together, we want to make sure that we put our proposal and our ideas together the right way, so we can present it to you in the right way, so we can bring something together, so we can collaborate in coming up with a plan for this city. Because I think that's the number one thing that this city has been lacking in, is some sort of economy and promoting interest for people to visit us, to patronize. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you guys have put that on the table. Mr. Nixon, once again, I apologize if I was out of order, and I mean no malice, okay? I'm very passionate about this situation, and it sucks, but I know that it sucks for all of us, okay? So I'm gonna, go ahead and mute myself and let you guys go on with the vote.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other hands that are up?
Mr. President, would I be allowed a very brief response?
I don't know that it's necessary.
Okay, it's in the comments. It's in the comments, Anthony.
Very good. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I believe that Councilwoman Washington had a statement.
That's right. I keep forgetting.
I can read it now, or I can read it right before my vote.
Well, we're going to be taking the vote. Please go ahead.
I just want to offer my thanks again to everyone, as well as to my fellow colleagues, the administration, and most importantly, our community, for the opportunity to recess again yesterday until today at 1 p.m. The decision on our budget for me was a tough one. One of our duties as city council members is to ensure that we are making the best financial decisions for the residents of the city of York, not just for 1 year, but for decades to come. What we do today ultimately affects the next 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on years here in the city of York. As I stated during my December 22nd comments, I did not in any way want to see an increase of 48% in our property taxes. I wanted to make sure that all avenues of revenue were researched thoroughly prior to us moving forward, and that a clear financial plan was provided if the sale of the wastewater treatment plant were to move forward. Please note that our vote today is not on the sale of the wastewater treatment plant. We are voting for a balanced budget factoring in monies of a presumed sale of the wastewater treatment plant that we have yet to vote on, which will possibly be voted on in January or February of 2021. As I shared yesterday, I was able to research and find an additional $8.1 million of additional streams of revenue that could be utilized to the benefit of our city. It is apparent that millions of dollars are owed to the city of York, or could be factored into the city of York's budget, that the administration and team could have done more to work on and uncover these dollars like I did. If so, I don't believe that we would have to accept a budget with the unknown of a possible upfront payment. For example, and the public may not be aware of this, and they may be aware of this, but there is more than a possible $7 million owed to the city of York from outstanding sewer fees that haven't been paid. Yes, we are all aware that York Water is working with us diligently in collecting those collection fees and efforts to our arrangement with them to collect. But what if all those monies were to be collected in 2021? That would be a possible additional $7 million right there. It seems to me that that could have been factored in and more could have been done. Therefore, based on the fact that many of my suggestions have not been made, have not been taken into factor, and that time is currently running out for anyone to do any further work, and we must pass a balanced budget by December 31st to ensure that the services for the people of the city of York are kept on track. I am left to vote in support of a budget that I believe is not the best that we could do for the people of the city of York. Thank you.
Now, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Nixon.
Yes, and that is so ordered. Is there any comment from the council before we close this meeting?
We have the tax ordinance,
Oh,
President.
that's right. That's right. I had to pull out the old agenda from 2015, right?
2020. Oh, you talking about December 15th?
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, that changed on the 22nd. And-
Wait a second here, I'm finding it.
Okay. I could give the final millage rate according to that,
Yeah.
which was amended at the December 22nd meeting. And the final millage rate is $18.97 on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. So that is your millage rate.
Very good. That was introduced.
That was, as a matter of fact, we need to do the amendments on that one because we didn't get to that on the 22nd or 29th.
All right.
Is there,
Council President, may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that the budget team knows which budget you're voting on. Is this the option A budget, the one that was presented on November the 15th?
No.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
This is the option B, which included the amendment that we just voted on.
Okay, thank you.
is there a motion to accept the amendments presented on the 22nd to change the millage rate to 18.97? Is there a motion to accept that amendment?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Mr. Rivera, just second. It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll on this.
Okay, Rivera,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Nixon.
Yes. And the amendment carries. Next is another one.
And that is to adopt this bill as amended. Is there a motion to adopt the bill as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Nixon.
Yes, and that is so ordered. And I believe we have one last one.
That's the last one, Council President.
Okay. Obviously, I was not following along closely enough. Very good. So we have a budget as amended, and we go into 2021 with a balanced budget, thanks to the cooperation of everyone on council and the administration for making its very best effort to try to satisfy the thoughts and suggestions by Ms. Washington.
President Nixon, I'd just like to say also, because I forgot to send this out to staff until late, but at the December 22nd meeting, the sewer ordinance was amended and it passed. And that was to change the amount for each 1,000 gallons per month to $9.37. So that was approved unanimously for the amendment by council, and the bill as amended passed by 3-1 with Councilman Rivera MD dissenting to that vote.
All right. We've cleaned up details. And if there's no further business from City Council or from the administration, we will call it a day. Good afternoon.
Farewell.